What's going on YouTube? This is Rybo at the bench, and today I have another cut or carry watch review. Today looking at the Orient Mako 2. This is the white dial version. Really nice dive watch from Orient. So my buddy Russ loaned this in, and I've been able to wear this and enjoy this over the past week or two and have some thoughts. So I'm not going to do size comparison, but I will do a quick size check. So if we do a diameter on this guy, case diameter, so we're coming in at 41.6. I believe they advertised 41.5 on this, so that is almost dead on. Kudos to Orient on that. If you do the bezel diameter, you have 39.9, so right around 40, which is nice. The lug to lug on this guy is 46.5, which is very good for a dive watch and a bigger watch. And then this is, I'm not even going to bother measuring this. This is a 22 millimeter bracelet. And then this has a, I believe, 120 click unidirectional bezel. So you cannot turn it the other way, unidirectional, one direction, so much like your Seiko divers. All right, quick rundown of this watch. So this is this has the let me read this out, F6922, spectacular name for a movement. This is an upgrade over the, I believe, the movement that was in the Mako 1. The Mako 1, I believe, has an extra pusher here that advances the date or the day, I can't remember, but this one takes care of that where you don't have to have that pusher. I know I did not care for that pusher, and I don't think a lot of people did. So this kind of takes care of that, cleans up the look of the watch quite a bit. This is hacking and hand winding also, which I don't believe the old one was. I guess I'll give you a shot of the case back, although there's not a ton there. There's a sticker in the way. This is a 200-meter water-resistant diver. This is about 13 millimeters, I believe, thick. I forgot to measure that. So yeah, 12 and a half. That's good. Sapphire crystal, which is very nice. And then you have a beautiful bracelet that is solid end links, which is a really nice thing at this price point. This is about I want to say about a $300 watch at the moment. I'm not sure what they're going on the secondary market for, but I believe it's about a $300 watch. Yeah, all in all, comes together really nicely, and you have that kind of greenish, puffy lume, which is really nice, especially against that stark white dial. All right, things that I like about this watch. So number one, and I'm going to go ahead and pop it on wrist, the size. So the size is really nice. For a diver like this, I have fairly small wrists. I think mine are about 7 inches. So the size is really nice. For a dive watch, that wears really well, partially due to that short lug to lug. So you can see it's not overhanging the wrists at all, which is really nice for me. Centers very nicely, and I think just wears like a much smaller watch than it is. 41.5 is pretty good. I tend to stay, under 42 for sure on dive watches, and usually under 40 for dress watches and other things like that. But this is a very nice size, and this bracelet is phenomenal. This is one of the best kind of, I don't know if I can say budget bracelet at $300. This is a phenomenal bracelet. Orient is, I'll just say, not really known for their bracelets. They tend to get kind of a bad rap from what I've seen. But this bracelet is really solid. This hugs the wrist really nicely. Just a very solid feeling, heavy bracelet, and heavy, I mean in a good way. But I don't know if I can even show this. It holds up very well. It does not move around too much. Just a really solid bracelet. If you size this thing in just right, it just hugs the wrist beautifully, and I think it wears very comfortably. Other things that I like, I know that white dial divers are kind of a hit or miss thing. It's very controversial for a lot of people. This is my first one, and I actually really liked it. I think it adds something a little bit different. It's probably not an everyday wear for me, but I love it, especially up against this green lume, because if I turn this on, see if I can charge up this lume real quick and show this off. So look at that right there. Up against that white dial, that is really sweet. That is just really cool. This makes for, just to be honest, a lot of really great pictures of this watch if you are an Instagrammer. But this just looks really, really sweet. That kind of lime green or neon green up against that white is just really solid, and that's really cool. And they've done a really good job on the lume. I think that the lume holds up very well. They've been very generous with it on the hands and the markers, which is really, really nice. I also like the kind of two-tone white and black. I think that it's a little bit stark, but I think it works really, really nicely. I love the bezel. I think that the bezel is very, very good. And, another thing that I've heard of Orient sometimes is you can have some bezel play. I don't really notice any bezel play on this. The clicks are really nice, good tactical feel or tactile feel, I guess. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. You can line this up better than most Seikos that I own. And I like the overall bezel design. I think it's easy to grab and move. I like the markers. I like the black, actually. And it's just got a very good feel to it. Very high quality feel for something that's about $300. Other things that I like, let's see. That might be about it. Signed crown is nice. Overall, just the case shape itself is very, very nice. I think it just wears really, really nicely. One of the most underrated things to me about watches, in my opinion, is the case shape. And that's because a lot of people will see a watch online or in pictures and just think it's a really cool watch. But one of the most important things about buying a watch is buying something with a case shape that fits your wrist. You want something that's going to hug the wrist and is going to wear smaller rather than larger. So if you have a watch that sits really proud, doesn't really sit on the wrist very well, the watch is going to look bulky. It's going to look like it doesn't fit. It's going to look way too big for your wrists. Something like this just hugs the wrist very, very nicely, and I think it wears very, very well because of that. And so I really like that. It's probably the number one thing that I've noticed about this watch over the past week or two of wearing it is just how well it sits on the wrist. It kind of slides underneath the shirt cuff, which is really nice, but you can dress it up, dress it down. It's just a very nice kind of budget diver. Orient does a lot of things really well. I tend to like Orient watches quite a bit, and this is no exception. This is a solid piece. Things that I don't love. So one, I've never been a huge fan of the Orient logo. That's not really a knock on this watch as much as it is just Orients in general. Looks very like 70s to me. I'm not sure about this day date in the outline of black here. It takes up too much of this dial to me. I think this watch would have been a lot better with kind of a no date version maybe, or maybe just a day. Maybe just a date with no day. But the day date is just a little bit too much on that dial. It makes it feel a little bit cramped. The handset is not my absolute favorite, but there's nothing really wrong with it. I like the second hand quite a bit. But these arrow hands, I'm just not a huge fan of. They're fine, but it's a little tiny bit too much. But honestly, I don't know. That's probably not fair. They're fine. And really the only major issue that I have with this watch is the crown. So one, this is the crown fully seated, and it is screwed in, if I can get that in focus. Unfortunately, it just doesn't look like it is. So you always go around thinking that the crown is not screwed in. There's a 200-meter water-resistant diver, and so you're always worrying that, I haven't screwed this in, and it's going to get water in there, whatnot. But no, that is a fully seated crown. It's a little deceptive, and honestly, even with the crown pulled out, it's a little bit difficult to maneuver. So that is the crown fully out. I can hand wind this watch. I'm not going to move the hands around and whatnot, but I can hand wind. It's a little bit difficult to pop in and thread. I end up having to kind of back thread a little bit to get it in. But right there, I have locked up fully, and it just doesn't really look like that. And so that it's a minor thing in some ways, but it is something that you kind of go around always thinking that the crown is unscrewed, which just a little design element. Final conclusions for me, this is a carry. I really like this watch. I've been very pleasantly surprised at my first experience with a white dial diver. I think that the bracelet is one of the best things about this watch and just really takes it up another notch. But even without the bracelet, I think it's a really, really nice watch. The bezel is super solid, no backplay. You have beautiful lume, a nice kind of crisp white dial. And, it's a great kind of, who am I kidding? It's a great 10th watch for somebody. This is a great watch to have in rotation. Probably not like an everyday wear for me, but an awesome watch to kind of shake things up. I think it's really, really solid. All right, hope you have enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time.